The relationship of Spain in the United States is changing, and is that related to the Spanish heritage, related to the Hispanic population strength, which is really extremely relevant right now, to the strength of Spanish language also. Is the United States pivoting away from Europe?
No, pivot to Spain. Pivot to Spain. Well, we are certainly celebrating 500 years of relations, greatest discovery in the history of the world, and the 300th anniversary of the birth of Fray Felipe Rosetta, who established the missions in California. But I think we should be careful not to lose focus on the relationship that exists today and the Spain of today. And it is good that Spain is known for the fact that the Spanish national flag flew over the territory now known as the United States for more years than any other flag in history. For over 300 years, our flag has flown over that territory for about 237, the Brits less than 200. But I also think that the activity that's going on today, so if you go to Montana, you're likely to see a wind farm that was built by a Spanish company. Or if you go to Arizona, you'll see a solar energy facility built by a Spanish company. Or if you ride in some of the new modern subway cars, they're likely to have been built by a Spanish company. And you have great ambassadors today in Spain, in the United States, like Jose Andres or Antonio Banderas or Rafa Nadal. And that, that spans culture, sports, and great business people, frankly, who are doing business in the United States and making a great country.
You can move to the economic relation between both countries. According to the just recently released Transatlantic Economy 2030, and just Queen, which is a great expert, that Spanish affiliates of U.S. companies employ over 170,000 Spaniards here.
Yes.
Vice versa, it's about 676 Americans employed by Spanish companies. Right. So the mission of the economic relation, the FDI, the mutual FDI, is extremely strong. How do you see that? How is that going to be affected by the transatlantic partnership? What are the main problems that the companies on both sides have in terms of increasing the volume of FDI, mutual FDI?
Well, as many people here know, our industry has focused on economic issues as much as any issues over the last few years. We practice what we call economic statecraft, which is a term that was coined by Secretary Clinton, which means putting the economic policy at the forefront of our foreign policy. And so trade and investment is hugely important. It is true that there is greater U.S. investment here in Spain, but Spain is among the fastest growing sources of foreign direct investment in the United States. And our government has become keenly aware of the importance of foreign direct investment. And the President, 2 years ago, by executive order, created something called the Select USA, which is an office in the Department of Commerce specifically geared to attracting foreign investment to the United States. 19% of all United States exports are produced by the American subsidiaries of foreign-owned companies. And one of the things we tried to do at the embassy is shine a bright light on how important and growing is Spanish investment. It's tripled in the last few years. U.S. investment in Spain has been for a longer period of time, and I think there are 1,300 companies, American companies, who are investing here. But the flow of foreign direct investment to Spain from the United States is declining. It's experienced a 73% decline. But in the first 9 months of 2012, less than $250 million of U.S. investment was invested here in Spain. And that, I think, should be of great concern. I remember having a conversation with a senior government official who said to me, look, there are only 3 sources of investment that will grow our economy. Either the government will invest, our own businesses will invest, or will attract foreign companies to invest. Well, the government is really having to shrink its investment. Spanish companies are doing very well around the world, but they're not investing as much here. And this country, I think, needs to realize, or I think it realizes, but I think it needs to be acutely aware of the fact that foreign investment is about a four-letter word. It's about jobs, and it's about getting the economy growing again, and should be doing everything possible to attract American companies and help them compete, just as I believe we should do everything possible to attract Spanish companies. There are lots of really good news about that. Ford Motor Company shut down a plant in Belgium and moved its operation to its plant here outside of Valencia. I had breakfast yesterday with a large mining company that has a major facility in the south that employs about 1,000 people, and I can see that their business is very good. But I think people know the issues on which we've been outspoken on. I think the government needs to be conscious of the importance of creating a climate in which companies from both Spain and around the world can come here and invest and create jobs.
Yeah. And you mentioned jobs. Jobs is a question of small and medium-sized companies, and it's also a question of trade, exporting. How is the transatlantic partnership going to affect that? Is that going to improve?
Well, our ambassador to the European Union recently said that this is the most important bilateral trade negotiation in all of history. We already have the transatlantic economy already accounts for $5 trillion in commercial sales across the Atlantic. There are already about 15 million jobs that are supported by that, but everyone believes that if we can consummate this agreement, this transatlantic trade and investment partnership, which is much more than a free trade agreement, that we're going to be able to create jobs both in Europe and the United States and help grow both of our economies. And that's because tariffs are already relatively low. But this effort has a much broader and bolder vision of trying to normalize regulations, for example. We're essentially trying to, in a nutshell, rewrite the rules of global trade.
Is it important in terms of growth, or is it important in terms of establishing standards and regulations?
Well, I think they go hand in hand. I think that we know that the world has become much more competitive economically. We have gone through it. We are both paying more attention to Asia because we want to both do business in Asia and with Asia, but we also want to be able to compete successfully with the rising economic powers in Asia. And I think that, and if we're able to do that successfully, that our economies will grow and we will prosper. But in order to do that, I think the United States and Europe need to realize the opportunity that we have to be the architect of this new global regime of trade rules rather than abiding by the trade rules of other nations.
This is going to be an easy negotiation for the hard one. How is the U.S. going to deal with agricultural protectionism and Europe with cultural exception?
I guess Jack Kennedy once said, we're not doing this because it's easy, we're doing this because it's hard. No, this is going to be difficult, and nobody has any illusions about it. However, we never had a better opportunity to do this. This notion of TTIP is what we call it, has strong bipartisan support in the United States and in the U.S. Congress. And in fact, there have been, as our new U.S. Trade Representative Mike Froman has gone through his confirmation hearings, he's spoken about this to the committees that he has appeared before. And we think there's considerable support in the European Union and in European capitals. But there are going to be people, naysayers, or there are going to be people who are going to want to protect certain issues. But we have shown, prior to launching or prior to committing to the launch of these trade negotiations, the high-level working group that was established by the European Union and the United States at the U.S. Summit went through a year of looking at these hard issues and even testing some of them. And so we actually came to some agreement on sanitary standards. We've had experience where we have common